Marcus shoved a stack of papers onto the kitchen table at 2 a.m. Sign here, here, and here, he ordered, tapping the pages. His voice was cold, like he was talking to a stranger, not his wife of 8 years. I looked at him, messy hair, tired eyes, and the faint smell of perfume on his shirt. Now, Emma, he snapped, pushing a pen toward me. I don't have all night. The kitchen, once filled with warm memories, now felt like an interrogation room. You get nothing, he continued with a smirk. No alimony, no property. You leave with what you came in with. I took the pen and calmly signed each page. Marcus watched, expecting tears or protests. Instead, I felt relief. He had no idea I'd been preparing for this moment. I had noticed the signs, late nights, secret texts, password changes, but 6 months ago, a lipstick stain on his collar confirmed my suspicions. That night, I called Diana, my best friend, who was a paralegal, and James Mitchell, the best divorce lawyer in town. You're making this easy, Marcus said, gathering the papers. I thought you'd fight. I smiled, thinking about the documents hidden in my safety deposit box and the proof I had collected over 3 months. Why fight? You made your choice. He hesitated, not used to my confidence. Megan's different, he said. She's ambitious, not stuck in a boring teaching job. I thought of my students, my investments, and the future I had carefully planned. I hope she's everything you want. Marcus stuffed the papers into his briefcase and pulled out his phone, probably texting Megan about his win. Don't try anything stupid, Emma, he warned as he walked to the door. I said, Marcus. He stopped. You might want to read what you just had me sign. He scoffed, but I saw a flicker of doubt. I know what's in them. I wrote them myself. Did you? I asked. Or did your friend Steve from the golf club do it? His face darkened. How did you? Good night, Marcus, I said, turning to make tea. After he left, I sat at the table, hands around my mug. I had spent months gathering proof, setting the trap. Marcus thought he was outsmarting me, but he never saw it coming. Steve, his so-called legal expert, was a fraud. My lawyer, James, figured it out immediately. Those papers Marcus forced me to sign? They weren't what he thought they were. I sent 2 texts. To Diana, it's done. He took the bait. To James, time for phase 2. Then, I went upstairs to pack Marcus's things. By morning, he would realize the truth. But tonight, I smiled, knowing he had just signed away everything without even reading the fine print. The first call came at 7:15 a.m. I watched Marcus's name flash across my phone screen as I sipped my morning coffee on the porch. 4 calls. Straight to voicemail. Then the text started. What did you do? These aren't the right papers. Answer me. I set my phone aside and watched the sunrise, thinking about the exact moment Marcus would realize what he'd done. The divorce papers he had me sign weren't divorce papers at all. They were documents transferring all our joint assets into my name, along with a sworn statement admitting to his infidelity and financial misconduct. Diana arrived at 8 a.m., right on schedule. How are you holding up? She asked, setting her laptop on the kitchen table. Better than Marcus, I guess, I replied, showing her the stream of increasingly frantic messages on my phone. He just called the office, Diana said, a smile playing at her lips. James told him he'd be happy to meet with him next week. You should have heard him spluttering. The doorbell rang at 8:30. Marcus stood there, still wearing yesterday's clothes, his face a mix of rage and panic. What the hell did you make me sign? He demanded. I stepped aside, letting him enter. Diana's presence at the kitchen table made him falter. Who's she? Diana Peterson, paralegal for Mitchell and Associates, Diana said professionally. Please, have a seat. We have some matters to discuss. Marcus's face went pale. Mitchell and Associates. James Mitchell's firm? The very same, I said quietly. Coffee? He ignored my offer, pulling the papers from his briefcase and slapping them on the table. These aren't the divorce papers Steve prepared. You switched them. No, Marcus, I corrected him. Those are exactly the papers you brought last night. You just never bothered to read them carefully. Too busy texting Megan, I suppose. Diana opened her laptop. Mr. Turner, shall we review what you've actually signed? First, there was the transfer of all joint assets into my name, which he had authorized with his signature on pages 3, 7, and 12. Then, his sworn statement regarding his affair with Megan Porter, including dates, locations, and financial records of gifts purchased using joint funds. Marcus collapsed into a chair, his face ashen. This isn't legal. I'll fight it. With Steve's help? I asked innocently. Your unlicensed friend who's currently under investigation for practicing law without a license? That should go well. You set me up, he whispered. No, Marcus. You set yourself up. I just made sure everything was documented properly. Diana pulled out another folder. We also have evidence of your attempt to defraud Mrs. Turner by presenting false legal documents in the middle of the night, which, I should mention, was captured on the security cameras installed 3 months ago. Marcus's head snapped up. What cameras? I gestured to the subtle lens in the corner of the kitchen. Amazing what you don't notice when you're feeling superior. Why are you doing this? He demanded, his voice cracking. For revenge? For protection, I corrected him. I gave you 8 years of my life, Marcus. I supported your career, managed our home, and believed in our future. And you repaid that by trying to leave me with nothing. Diana slid a new set of papers across the table. These are the actual divorce papers, properly prepared by Mitchell and Associates. You'll find the terms quite different from what you had in mind. Marcus stared at the papers, his hands shaking. I don't have to sign these. True, I agreed. But then we'll proceed with charges of attempted fraud. And Steve will likely face serious legal consequences for his part in this. Your choice. You can't prove. Actually, Diana interrupted, turning her laptop toward him. We can prove everything. The surveillance footage. Your text messages to Steve about planning this. The illegal documents he prepared. Would you like to see more? Marcus slumped in his chair, the full weight of his situation finally hitting him. I'll lose my job if this gets out. You should have thought about that before trying to ambush your wife with fake papers at 2 a.m., Diana said crisply. I watched my husband, soon-to-be ex-husband, as the reality of his position sank in. The man who had smirked at me just hours ago, so confident in his superiority, now looked small and defeated. You have 24 hours to review these papers with a proper attorney, I said, standing up. After that, we proceed with fraud charges. Oh, and Marcus, he looked up. The next time you try to trick someone into signing something in the middle of the night, make sure they're not smarter than you. He gathered the papers with trembling hands and walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned back. Emma, save it. I cut him off. Your 24 hours start now. After Marcus left, Diana looked at me with a mischievous grin. That went even better than we expected. I took a deep breath, finally feeling a sense of relief. Thank you, Diana. He'd be an idiot not to sign, she said, pouring herself a cup of coffee. Though, she added with a smirk, he's already proven he's capable of making monumentally stupid decisions. I picked up my phone, now silent after hours of constant buzzing. The last text from Marcus simply read, "You've changed." I stared at the message for a long moment, thinking about the man who had stormed into our kitchen that night, so certain of his superiority, so confident in his plan to leave me with nothing. I typed a response. No, Marcus. I just stopped letting you believe I was less than you. Then, without hesitation, I blocked his number. I poured myself a glass of wine and stepped onto the porch, watching as the sunset painted the sky in brilliant colors. Sometimes, the best victory isn't in fighting back, it's in being prepared, being patient, and letting karma do its work. Marcus had tried to write me off as simple, unambitious, and easily manipulated. Instead, he learned that underestimating someone is the biggest mistake you can make, especially when that someone has been taking notes all along.